Look at some news articles. Um, so this looks pretty useful. I think I may have to write this up for the instant response class. There's the Atomic Red Team. This is a way to organize your security, and they had this thing called Vector, which is better than a spreadsheet for this purpose. And the point is, if you have threat intelligence, like you're afraid you're going to get hacked by a team, then you find the tactics they're likely to use, and then you'd like to know if you're protected from those tactics. And this vector thing helps set this up. So you choose the technique you want to protect against, and the Atomic Red Team has made tests, like little PowerShell scripts you can run, that will perform that attack, so you can check your defense and see if your defense is working. So this is just a way to sort of organize your dealing with all those techniques and deciding to what extent you can block them, to try to quantify the strength of your defense. So it sounds quite useful. Like I say, in that course, you need to learn the MITRE attack matrix, because even though it has hundreds of attacks, it is the way you rate attacks and defenses now. So we need to get used to using tools like this to document your security posture. And if we're moving towards making security a science instead of an art, and first, one of the things you need for that is a metric. There ought to be some way to put a number on how good your security is. Like our security is a 10, and if we buy this new firewall, it will go up to an 11, and that will stop this many more attacks or something. And this is this is as far as we've got in that direction to try to quantify your state of security. So this is a very good article from Gizmodo explaining what I've been mentioning on several podcasts, because I used to be a database administrator at a company, and at one point I aggregated all the databases into one giant database, and I was able to find fraud. And so that's what Doge is doing. But this explains why this is not allowed with government data, why it has always been explicitly forbidden, and why it's a terrible idea. Because if you had all the government data, like all the data from the post office and the IRS and the libraries and the Social Security Administration and the income tax people, then you could figure out what everybody was doing. You could figure out what they're spending money on. You could figure out where they're going. You could download all the data from all the automatic license plate readers and so on. You could get a pretty detailed profile of what everybody is doing, and then you could just run a query to find everybody that is going to a house of prostitution, everybody that's going someplace where they sell drugs, everybody that's going to mosques and is therefore a Muslim, everybody that's going to synagogues and is therefore Jewish. So it would be really easy to make a list of undesirables for you to weed out and arrest. And of course, that's what Doge primarily wants to do, is to locate undocumented immigrants with this, to deport them. And of course, you can also find financial fraud. You can find people who have been paid more than they should have, and that they're still getting Social Security, they shouldn't be eligible, and things like that. So this is that's why it's completely forbidden. There are a whole bunch of barriers in the government database systems that you cannot use this data for another purpose. And they're just ignoring all that with Doge. They're just stealing all the data and making it unauthorized copy in an unsecure server and running unsecure AI services through it to find these things, because they're part of the Trump administration, and all they care is deporting these illegal immigrants, because exactly like the previous generation of the same people in the 30s and 40s, the Red Scare, 40s and 50s I should say, the Red Scare, they were convinced that there are all these communists destroying America. And these guys have become convinced that there's all these illegal immigrants destroying America. In both cases, it's complete nonsense. The threat is not that large. There aren't that many of them. They're not doing that much harm. But they're convinced, the Trump administration is convinced there's 21 million illegal immigrants, and you can somehow solve all the problems in America by deporting them all and finding them all. So this would be efficient in that useless task. Anyway, it's a very good article explaining why there are currently rules about how data is used to prevent exactly what they're doing, because it's so easy to abuse. And since the administration has Nazis and eugenicists in it, in high positions, like as high as the president, then the next thing Nazis always want to do is to get rid of the undesirables. Exterminate them, send them to death camps, deport them, forcibly sterilize them, and all that. And you could totally do that with this wonderful database. You could find all the people in ethnic groups you don't like, in zip codes that you regard as having lower IQ and things like that. And that's what has been proposed many times in history and implemented many times through history, which is why the American government had all these barriers to prevent the data at the post office or the IRS or anything else from being reused for other purposes. But the Trump administration is ignoring that like all other laws and just building those databases. And another thing you can do, of course, with that database is you can find dirt to blackmail all the lawyers, judges, and politicians, so you can do what J. Edgar Hoover did. You can do illegal things and put pressure on the executives in the legal and political spheres to make them afraid to cross you. So you can get away with doing illegal things. I'm sure they've thought of that too. So this was pretty interesting. Simple thing, I did something like this years ago. This guy wondered what was going on with government and college servers, and he found some Google Dorks. This is a Google Dork site, star.gov, and in title full movie, for example. There's these little Google queries which will find hacked databases, and so he finds a bunch of government websites that are hosting movies, which of course they're not supposed to do. These are pirate movies, and this means somebody's hacked it and they're using it for an illegal purpose. And he found a whole bunch of these. Here's free Robux. Apparently Robux is a currency used inside some game. And so there are sites that are generating it. I guess it's sort of like mining a cryptocurrency. They're finding European government websites doing that, universities and schools. Here's universities like Yale that have been, and Oregon State University and Smith College. Plenty of colleges have these things. So, I remember I did something like this years ago. I found like 25 colleges with open SQL injections that were selling Viagra, and I found that none of them cared. You tell them, they don't respond. That's why you can write an article like this and you can educate people about the situation, but contacting these universities is almost always completely pointless. Anyway, might be better now, but I doubt it. And apparently the driverless trucks are out there. We've been hearing about these for at least 20 years. But now they apparently have self-driving long-haul trucks, which is a very good idea. There aren't enough people to do the long-haul trucking job. It's a pretty nasty, unhealthy job, and it would be nice to have these trucks do it. And they say it's better because they can then run basically 24 hours a day, and they're probably safer, always obey the speed limit and all that jazz. And the point is, this is much easier self-driving. Now, the Teslas, for example, are trying to self-drive in the city, and so are the Waymos. And the Teslas aren't very good at it. The Waymos are better. But city driving is really hard. The roads get blocked. People pull out in front of you. There's pedestrians and all that jazz. Whereas just going on the freeways from one freeway location to another, a long haul, that's really pretty easy driving. I can believe that your auto driving system could accomplish that much more effectively. So apparently they are out there happening. And I would think this will rapidly become very popular. If it is cheaper than hiring long-haul truck drivers, which I assume it will be, but there isn't a statement here about the price yet. But I think this is going to be the future of long-haul trucking. And Trump talked about making a strategic Bitcoin reserve. Although David Sachs, who was put in charge of it, all he wanted to do, I think, was to keep the Bitcoin that the government already has from seizing instead of selling it, which is, I must say, a very modest and relatively harmless way to do it. But New Hampshire is going to pass a strategic Bitcoin bill. I must say, it's a little odd that these things are passing now because Bitcoin is not going up. And it has been proven over the last 3 or 4 years that Bitcoin, in fact, is not really a hedge against inflation or anything. So I think they've kind of missed the bandwagon here. I mean, there is a type of economics called Austrian economics that would suggest that Bitcoin is a better place to put money than gold, but the evidence in reality does not support that. It would probably make more sense for the states to have a gold reserve than a Bitcoin reserve. But anyway, New Hampshire's going to try it. And so everyone's cheating their way through college. They checked, it seems like 90% of people are using ChatGPT to write their papers and get answers on their quizzes and everything else. It's certainly happening. In my classes for the hands-on projects, I encourage everybody to use AI. I'm going to be teaching another programming class this summer, and I'm going to tell them, go ahead and use AI. It's fine. You just learn to get the job done, with whatever tools are out there, and probably it would be wrong to not use AI these days. In any tech field, you should get used to using it. You should get good at using it. You should learn what it's good for and what it's not good for. It's just as useful as Google. it's just as important as Google, and you're not ready to do your job if you're not ready to use AI tools to do your job. So, but I know that people that are teaching things like English and stuff have a real problem, because if people use AI to write their papers and they don't even know English, then they're not learning English. So they have to somehow stop them from doing that. But anyway, for my classes, it doesn't matter. I suppose people could be using AI to cheat on the tests, the quizzes, and they wouldn't be learning the terms in the book. And but I don't think it's worth taking an effort to prevent that. I recommend that you don't do that and learn the terms in the book. But the main thing in my class is the hands-on projects where you set up something and get it working. And using AI to help you do that, that would be fine. I use AI all the time. I often have a problem on my computer, an error message comes up. I go to AI, say, what does this error message mean? What do I do about it? We should all be doing that. So in this field, there's nothing wrong with AI. But, in other fields, it's cheating and real hard to stop. So